How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we have another YCS morning and we're breaking down YCS Raleigh. Congratulations to the YCS champion Cameron Neal taking the event down with Snake Eye. Is anybody surprised? Not me. But some of the things that we're going to talk about today is breaking down the event. There's a new Master Duel Banlist. We're going to cover that in a minute as well. And mostly why this event matters so much. Before we begin, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you are new to the channel. And what we're going to be talking about today is the fact that YCS Raleigh was a relatively important YCS because we are coming off of a Tier 0 format where Snake Eye and Fire King reigned supreme in the TCG, and we are just coming off of a ban list as well. This is the first big event in the NA, at least, featuring a new ban list in which Baron, Linkaribo, Borreload Savage, and Summon Limit are forbidden from tournament play. However, we see that the best deck remains the best deck. This is Cam Neal's deck, the first place deck. We're seeing pretty much the same main deck, the same exact main deck. We're seeing some variation to hand traps, cross outs. Some players in this event specifically were kind of on the Kashtira engine in this deck. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later, which is extremely powerful in my opinion. And in the extra deck, we see two synchros, 1-8, 1-10, just returning to the deck after Savage and Baron got banned. We have the Omega and the Dispatter. We're going to see how that actually works. But in terms of, is the Forbidden and Limited list effective to do anything in the meta? I think the answer is clearly no. And I think, moreover, we have seen zero shift in the meta, which means that the ban list, even though there were a lot of cards impacted, did nothing because this deck is still Tier 0 and still good. Second place, shout out to the second place runner-up with Labyrinth, taking it pretty far, right? Labyrinth doesn't have an easy time versus Snake Eye necessarily, but rivalry, you draw the rivalry, go in the semifinals. It's pretty good. We see a Chimera engine in Packbit in the side deck, which is pretty good. It can summon back spell and traps monsters. So Labyrinth is taking this down. We did see a lot of Runic stun, and this is a tweet from Phi in day one, where the Runic stun feature matches are the best way to simultaneously see a full deck profile because they just deck their opponent out. We're going to be seeing some feature matches right now featuring Runic stun because even though we had anti-spell and summon limit go to 1 and 0 consecutive respectively, we have not seen any movement in the stun department. We actually saw a little bit more than that. Before we go into the actual breakdown of the YCS, and we're going to be looking at some actual gameplay. New ban list in Master Duel. I don't usually cover Master Duel. I think this is important for us to see how quickly Wanted and Ash are addressed. These are obviously the cards that need to be addressed. In the OCG, Wanted is currently at 1. Ash is at 2, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, this is probably going to happen in the TCG, the next ban list. Like, these two cards are going to be impacted. Super heavy, who cares? Another cool thing here, we have some... yeah, this card is banned. It just got a mate. Chimera wallpaper, some icons. Yeah. So, let's start breaking this down. I think let's talk about Snake Eye a little bit because I think this is the most important part. We're seeing right now what the Snake Eye engine can do. Besides putting up the usual suspects, spamming out a ton of buddies means that you get access to just generic, powerful extra deck tools. And in this case, we have Apollosa, who survived the ban list. And I think that this event shows that banning Baron and Savage was incorrect. If you don't, it was very hard to hit the Snake Eye engine without killing it completely, because if you hit it not enough, you risk of just releasing a ban list that does nothing, right? So I think it was a mistake. Baron and Savage being taken away from other decks, killing Dragon Link, killing Manadium, killing, just Baron is just a good card. It is bannable, but I don't think this was the context to do it in. Because now, see, when you have a way to put infinite bodies plus tuners on the board, you just make generic ass shit. Like Omega. Omega, rip one card from your opponent's hand, make a Dispatter with Formula Synchron, draw a card, Dispatter, summon back Omega, rip another card. Your opponent is down to 4 cards against a full Snake Eye board, and a negate with the Dispatter, which is also a negate. So I think this shows very clearly that this ban list was a huge, huge L. The ban list was awful. This is a proof, and people were saying that. I thought the ban list was actually fine. I think this is a proof that the ban list actually really sucked. Another thing that we saw, as we mentioned, is Runic Stun, which is, we see Aaron Furman playing it here. Why is that strategy possible? The fact that you have cards like Synchro Zone still in the game, and mainly the Runic engine, which is absurd because the Runic engine is just Solemn Judgment for Harpy's Feather Duster 1,000 times over, because you can always chain a Runic spell to summon and have Hugin protected, right? You obviously have only 3 Hugin in the deck, probably, but still that's enough because your opponent has 1 Duster. So I think the Runic engine, the fact that, I think in Master Duel what they did, they hit the Runic engine, but they also like heavily hit like Synchro Zone, stuff like that. I think the play here is to start limiting Runic. I think saying that Runic doesn't do anything in the format is incorrect, because this deck relies on Runic to protect the back row. And I think this is a huge problem, in my opinion. The fact that this deck can just run rampant. I would say Runic needs some hits. I think Fountain to 1 will be a good start, maybe Tip to 1 as well. If this is what the engine is used for, Konami obviously doesn't want Floodgates in the game, and this deck, all it does is deck the opponent out using Floodgates. Let's continue on with a little preview to the Tenpai Dragon format. We have Deception here, activating Heat Wave, going first, game 3. Now, this was brutal, to be honest. We have Matthew, his opponent, on Castera Snake Eye, which was probably the most promising variant of Snake Eye. Didn't end up winning, but we see Ed here playing Horus, Adventure, Castera, engine.deck. So many engines, very, very powerful ones, because you have an Omni-Negate engine, you have a huge body engine and a rank 8 engine, and of course, you have the Castera engine, which is just a single Fenrir can do a lot to mess up with your opponent. So we have a tie here going into game 3, and Deception goes first, activates Heat Wave, which says you activate it during the start of the main phase, and then no player can special summon or normal summon any monster for the rest of the turn until it comes back to Ed, which means that Matthew is left on an empty board, and Ed can just summon 3 Horuses, and that's usually enough for a game. And this is some of the things that we're going to see in Tenpai Dragon format. I think that the fact that Heat Wave is a card, it's a problem. I'm not sure if we're going to see a lot of Heat Wave, but going first, it's super effective, especially when you're dealing with like a deck that can very easily kill, of course. Some other things here. We have 2 unbanned cards returning from the dead. We have Thunder Dragon Colossus, and we have Arch Nemesis Protoss. And these 2 cards were like, oh my god, they're back. It's scary. We didn't see a lot of that. We saw some of that. I think Konami wanted to show us the unbanned cards, which is cool, which is fine. But I don't think we have 1 Colossus in the top cut or 1 Protoss, right? Very strong cards, very impactful. But as we said in the last episode with Nesh in Table Zero, in the Table Zero podcast, when you have such good decks in the format, like cheesing out one of these with like an engine, getting nibbed, it's funny. But yeah, is it worth it? Maybe. If there's like, when there's another ban list, then it will become impactful. I think Protoss is actually the scarier one of the 2, because I think that the fact is that Colossus doesn't really hit a lot of decks, right? Adding is okay, but some decks just special summon from the deck, and it's like fine. But Protoss is used for cleanup. Look at the judge's face on top there, sitting beside Jalen. They're both like, what the hell? There it is. This was Swiss round 1 feature, right? Protoss calling light. How are you going to beat that with Pearly? It is toxic. But we saw players opting to play Snake Eye because it's a much more resilient deck than playing Sword Soul that can just search Protoss. This was the event. I think the main outcome and what I'm feeling right now is that the ban list was a huge failure. The unbans were fine, didn't do anything to affect the meta, and 4 banned cards, and the best deck is still the best deck because you're just afraid to hit the engine cards because it makes you money. And it was a hard job for Konami. Honestly, probably I think like we could have done it with just the floodgates. Just unban some cards. Linkuriboh might needed to be banned. That's fine. Some limit banned. Anti-spell to 1. All great hits. And the problem now is that you're going to have to go back on Baron and Savage, probably. And also Linkuriboh. Like, think about it. In what reality are those cards banned? Like, imagine Snake Eyes Ash going to 1 and Wanted going to 1. Does Baron and Savage and Linkuriboh need to still be on the ban list? I don't think so. It means they're going to go back on it. So it's going to be really awkward. Let me know what you guys think about the format and the tournament down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.